Hey there, hypnotists, trapped boyfriends, brainwash victims, and TSA agents.
Continuing our series highlighting Black creators and creatives, we are talking about Jordan Peele's 2017 movie, Get Out.
This movie was the directorial debut for Jordan Peele, which for me was kind of really odd to see, but also great, because I grew up watching him on Mad TV. I loved that show and I'd watch it all the time with my parents.
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Mad TV. I just know the, Stevie, the underwear guy with the bowl cut. Is it Stevie?
Oh, boy. He's always, what is he
Doesn't he say, did I do that?
Look what I can do.
Yeah, that guy. That's the only thing I know about Mad TV.
For this movie, Jordan Peele won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay.
Taglines for this movie include, just because you're invited doesn't mean you're welcome.
And another tagline, do you belong in this neighborhood?
I actually love that one. I
love them both.
I think they're both really clever. Trigger warnings for this movie include, there's gore, racism. I don't know.
Gore and racism, sometimes at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
A synopsis for this movie. Now that Chris and his girlfriend Rose have reached the meet the parents milestone of dating, she invites him for a weekend getaway upstate with her parents. At first, Chris reads the family's overly accommodating behavior as nervous attempts to deal with their daughter's interracial relationship. But as the weekend progresses, a series of increasingly disturbing discoveries lead him to a truth that he never could have imagined.
That was long. You got it. You did it.
I did it.
The movie starts off with Chris, who is getting ready and packing to go upstate? Upstate. With his girlfriend Rose to meet the parents. And she comes over and she brings donuts or bagels or something, some sort of thing. And he's kind of explaining to her why he's nervous and have you ever dated a black guy before and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think upstate New York always sounds so fancy.
Yeah.
Like you're going to...
I was going to say it's bougie. Upstate, if you go upstate versus up north, you're bougie.
Yeah. If you go upstate, you're going to see, you're going to stay at a rich person's house. Mm-hmm. But for here in Michigan, when you go up north, it just means you're going to get wasted on a lake.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're by a lake.
You're by a lake and wasted.
Yeah.
You didn't even bring booze, but somehow you're wasted. Mm-hmm. The two have a dog and leave it to the care of their friend Rod, who is a TSA agent, and he will not let you forget it.
Yeah. Comic relief of the movie.
Yeah.
On the drive up, they end up hitting a deer, and it's making the most horrifying noises ever. And they call the police to report the accident. And Rose was driving, but the police officer is, of course, a huge dick and wants to see Chris's ID as well. And she goes into this whole thing about how he wasn't driving, blah, blah, blah. And it basically sets the tone for the rest of their trip, just starting off right away on a not very good, semi-racist note from the police officer.
No, but it's it's a double... I don't know what to call it, but it's two things at once, because it's, yes, the police officer is the one who, he clearly doesn't need to check his ID, but is anyways. But Rose, she's never had a hard time with police, but she's giving the police officer a hard time trying to defend her boyfriend, but it's shut up.
Yeah.
He's not concerned with you.
Right.
And because the whole time Chris is yeah, here's my ID, just check it. Mm-hmm. And it's just Rose, shut up.
Yeah. And she's also so smug and proud of herself for standing up for him. And it's if he tried to stand up for himself, it would have been a whole fucking different story.
But also you could have gotten him arrested or in trouble. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 for 1 in this scene, which I really, it's very well written.
Sir, can I see your license, please?
Wait, why?
Yeah, I have state ID.
No. He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to see his ID.
Yeah, why? That doesn't make any sense.
Here.
You don't have to give him your ID because you haven't done anything wrong.
Baby, it's okay. Come on. Anytime there's an incident, we have every right to ask.
When they get to the house, it's huge. The property is enormous. And there's an introduction of the parents and it's Dean and Missy, and so her dad, Dean, is a neurosurgeon, and her mom, Missy, is a hypnotherapist. Like the two, they were like, what's a bougie white person job? Hypnotherapist. Boom.
Right.
What's another one? Neurosurgeon. Of course the dad's the neurosurgeon. Like as bougie as, and just like, if you think of somebody who lives in upstate New York.
They're probably a neurosurgeon.
And a hypnotherapist.
Yeah. After we meet the parents, we also meet Georgina and Walter, who are the hired help who the dad mentions, like, were helping take care of his parents when they were older and sick, and they just loved having them around so much that they couldn't let them go, so they just kind of have them on full time but don't really need them. So they're kind of like the groundskeeper and the housekeeper.
Trying to stay hip. Her dad's even makes the comment of, haha, yeah, I know. Having two black housekeepers as a white guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you didn't need to say it, but...
I would have voted for Obama for a third time.
I would have voted for Obama for a third time. Chris talks to Walter, and the conversation is so weird. Mm-hmm. And Walter is just so... I don't even know how to describe him.
I feel like I'm trying to remember what he says. He's like talking about Rose and he's like, she's a keeper, ain't she?
Yeah.
It's just like really weird.
It's so weird.
Or she's a Rose, or her name is Rose. I'm just kidding. He didn't say she's a Rose. Something like that.
He does say something about her being a keeper, and it's very strange.
Mm-hmm. We also meet her really strange brother, Jeremy, who gets wasted at dinner and then wants to like practice martial arts with Chris. And oh my God, it's so awkward.
I hate the brother.
Yeah, he sucks.
I just hate everything about him, but I think you're supposed to, because there's not a single redeeming quality about him.
Yeah.
Of course, that night, Chris has a hard time sleeping and goes outside to have a cigarette. While outside, there's this very stressful scene where Walter is just sprinting at him, and from like really far away.
Yeah, it's very weird.
And then just like as he's about to like hit Chris, just makes like a hard turn. It's very, like, I thought he was gonna get tackled or something right then and there. But yeah, Walter's a huge dude.
Yeah, like 6'5" maybe. He looks gigantic. When Chris goes back inside, Rose's mom is waiting in her office and like does that whole like she's sitting in the dark and she turns the light on when he comes in and like spooks him. And like she knows that he's smoking, she wants him to quit, and she offers to hypnotize him. And he says no, but like unbeknownst to him, she's kind of already started doing it with the teacup and the way she's talking to him, and she convinces him to sit down with her.
Yeah, she's like known for her smoking cure.
Yeah, like her addiction help.
And there is a cult. There's a cult that did that in Canada. That was their draw. That was one of their things. Was
stop smoking?
To stop smoking.
It's very hard. I did it.
I can't
It's really fucking hard.
remember the name of the cult. Mm-hmm. But anyways, that's not the point. Yeah. Different episode.
Once he's in the room with her, though, she basically forces him to talk about the most traumatic moments in his life. And he can't help himself but, like, tell her about when his mom died. And the whole time she's spinning that spoon around in the teacup. And then she says, like, go into the... What does she say? She doesn't say go into the sunken place. No. But she says something when she snaps him into it.
Uh-huh. I can't remember what it is.
Regardless, she basically taps the cup really hard and it sucks him like out of his own body and into this other realm that is called the Sunken Place.
This place thing is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Oh, it's so scary.
And you just see like this little, like, because his vision starts to get farther and farther back until it's just like this tiny little window that he can barely see out of. It's very terrifying. And
he's screaming and there's no noise.
Yeah, it seems like something that would have been in like Lovecraft Country almost.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel now?
I can't move.
You can't move.
Why can't I move?
You're paralyzed. Just like that day when you did nothing. You did nothing. Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
And the next day, Chris assumes that whole thing was a dream, but Walter actually comes up to him and apologizes. He didn't mean to scare him.
Right. And then also all day, Chris has not wanted a cigarette.
Yeah.
When he was like kind of jonesing the whole previous day.
And another weird thing happens is he like goes to check his phone and somebody has unplugged it, and he assumed it's Georgina, and yeah, now his phone is dead, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And also, Rose had neglected to remember that there's this huge party happening this weekend. So while Chris is like so already uncomfortable and new to the family, like all of these people start showing up.
Of course, all wealthy and white. Mm-hmm. Because they all have wonderful mansions up in upstate New York.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like a black tie party.
Yeah. Which of course he didn't bring a suit with him.
Right.
Of course at the party they give Chris those kind of like compliments that are also backhanded and also racist. Mm-hmm. Saying, they say like he's such in peak condition, or like you're in great shape like Tiger Woods, or stuff like that. Or it's just like, black is really in this year. It's starting to become fashionable.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
and it just happens over and over and over and over again.
Fair skin has been in favor for the past, couple of hundreds of years. But now the pendulum is swung back. Black is in fashion.
And there does seem to be one person he meets, Jim Hudson, who's actually the voice of Bill in King of the Hill, which you didn't realize.
I still don't hear
And he's the
it.
guy from Office Space.
And I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I still don't hear him.
He's the stapler guy. He's also in Dodgeball.
I've never seen Dodgeball.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
I know the tagline. I've just never seen it.
Yes, this art dealer takes a great interest in him because Chris is actually like taking some pictures around and seems to be the only person there who isn't making these weird backhanded comments to him.
Well, Chris is kind of wandering around and hiding behind his camera and just trying to like, where's Rose throughout this whole scene also? She's like not even at the party.
She's just kind of like mingling around, but she like ditches Chris almost immediately.
I'd be so pissed at you if we were at something like that and you bailed on me.
I would cling to you because I cannot socialize like that.
But anyways, he notices that there's another black guy at the party, so he's like, hey, it's really nice to see like another brother around here, blah blah blah. And he acts really weird. He goes
like,
to like,
oh, you mean me?
He says like, my presence makes you feel comfortable.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, I see my presence.
Yeah.
It's another black man makes you feel comfortable. He sounds like an android.
Yeah. And like Chris goes in for like a fist bump and he responds with a handshake.
No, yeah, he grabs his hand.
Yeah. It's very awkward.
And he's also married to this white woman who is like 3 times older than him.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it doesn't.
Strange.
It seems to be strange. Mm-hmm. Like she's all over him, and he's just like a robot almost.
Right. Well, the party's still kind of going on. Chris thinks that he recognizes Logan and tries to like sneakily take a picture to send to Rod, just to be like, hey, is this who I think it is? This is really weird. And the flash goes off and Logan has a total fucking freak out.
Yeah, there's like a line of blood that comes out of his nose. And then he just starts screaming and freaking out, and they have to hold him back, and he starts to scream at Chris that he has to get out.
Sorry, man.
Okay.
Get out! Yo! Yo, chill, man. Get out! Chill, man. Chill, man. Chill. Get the fuck out of here!
And they say that he had a seizure.
Right.
Which is why he freaked out. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how many seizures...
You're standing up also.
Standing up and just becoming aggressive and like that. I've never heard of that.
Chris goes back in and I think his phone didn't get unplugged this time, so he has a little bit of juice to call Rod. So he calls Rod and tells him what happened, and he sends him the picture. And Rod is like, hey, I can't remember the guy's name. He's like, he's been missing for weeks. Like, that's so weird. Why is he wearing those clothes? Who is that lady?
He wasn't their friend, but their friend was like dating him.
Yeah.
So they had met him before, and that's why Chris recognized him. And Rod like right away recognizes him and it's like, yeah, here's his missing, like not wanted, missing,
This wanted poster.
missing persons poster. Why couldn't I think of what to say?
Yeah, that's right.
But they're like, yeah, he got abducted, because that's actually the opening scene is he gets abducted from the middle of like a suburban neighborhood. At this point, Chris has just like had enough, and he convinces Rose that they just got to get out of here, and he's just like not even stopping as he's just grabbing his bags. He's like we got to get out of here as he's shoving everything he can into his bag and just walking out of the bedroom.
As Chris is packing up, he notices like a door that's open in their bedroom, and he finds like a stack of photos of Rose with other like exes, you would assume, like people that she's kissing, but men, women, different ages, but they are all black. And she told him that he was the first black guy she ever dated. But he's so panicked at this moment that he just is kind of like, well, I don't know. And he still is trying to get her to go with him. And this part I hate so much too. So they're going downstairs and like the whole family is being creepy. And Chris is just like, Rose, find the keys. Let's get the keys. Let's go.
Yeah, and her brother's like there with, is it a mallet or is it a lacrosse?
A lacrosse thing.
Well,
what are those called?
You know why? Because we're not bougie. That's why we don't know what the fuck they're called.
The lacrosse thing.
The lacrosse thing. I've never played lacrosse. I'm not. Your parents have to make over like $250K a year, or you can't play lacrosse.
That's the rule.
That's the rule. Did your high school have lacrosse?
I don't think so.
Mine definitely did not have lacrosse.
Anyways, this part is just so frustrating that he's begging Rose to like find the keys, and she's like panicked and like, I can't find them. I don't know where they are.
But she's not. You can tell she's faking the panic.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, I can't find them, and barely moving her hands. And she's like, oh, yeah, he has to leave because his dog is missing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, not even a good lie.
Yeah. But then we get the reveal that Rose is in on everything when she's like, here's the keys, babe. And she just
is holding them. She's
had
like,
them the whole
I can't.
time.
Yeah, she's like, I can't give them to you.
His dog got really sick, so he has to be at the vet first thing in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, how terrible.
Rose, the keys.
Looking.
Give me those keys. Rose, now! Now, the keys! Oh, be careful, girl.
What the fuck?
I didn't do anything.
What the fuck is going on?
Where are those keys, Rose?
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
After the reveal, Chris goes after Jeremy, the brother with the lacrosse stick. I'm gonna say stick, but the fight doesn't go long because Rose's mom just does the teacup thing again, and he basically blacks out.
When Chris wakes up, he's strapped to this chair in this like weird room with a TV set, and the TV comes on with like the weirdest, most dated infomercial that's basically explaining what is about to happen to him.
Because it's old. It's a videotape their grandfather had made.
Right. And it basically tells him that, we will be transplanting your brain out of your body and replacing it with someone who paid us a lot of money because they want your body. And you'll still be there, but you can't do anything about it. That's the worst.
Yeah, and it goes on to explain they, because they want your body for their preferred physical characteristics, and it's basically just so they can have a semi sort of immortality, but it's their same brain, just new body.
Right.
And yeah, so once the surgery happens, he'll remain in the sunken place forever, which would be I would rather die.
Yeah, definitely.
Than be in the sunken place forever. And then after the grandfather talks, it cuts to like a live feed, and just before this there was an auction because it's so fucked up because it cuts. There's like this outdoor gazebo that the entire party is at, and there's just a picture of Chris.
It's like a silent auction.
And then whoever pays the most gets his body. And the photographer who had been nice to him turns out to be the winning bidder because he wants his eyes. So back in the room, it cuts to he sees the guy, and he literally says, I'm going to take your body, and they go into a brief thing where they're like, because I'm telling you this, there's a higher chance of success.
Yeah. And it's after this little live feed that it just cuts to like the mom with the teacup, and he goes unconscious again.
There's a cool scene right after this where it shows like the dad starting the surgery and him cutting the top of the blind photographer's head off and just tosses it in like a little garbage can. But I mean, he won't need it.
Right.
And then they send Jeremy to go fetch Chris.
But something that we haven't mentioned so far is when Chris has been under hypnosis, like he has a nervous tic where he like pulls at the chair with his
the
nails.
Arms of the chair.
And after he comes to from the second time, he was able to pull stuffing out of the armchair and plug his ears so that it wouldn't affect him anymore.
So the second that Jeremy like unties him, or he's like belted in, whatever.
Yeah.
He takes him out of the chair. He takes like a
billiard ball.
A billiard ball and just smacks him in the head.
It's pretty graphic.
Yeah, it is, because there's like the small pool of blood that starts to form.
Like he like crushes his skull.
Yeah. And from here on out, I just say
chaos.
Yeah, Chris's revenge.
Yeah.
He finds the surgery room, and of course, because this is bougie upstate New York, so there's some deer heads on the wall. And Chris grabs it and stabs their dad with it, just with antlers.
It's a pretty satisfying death.
Yeah. And this part that never really made sense to me, but whatever. There's a candle in there. I don't know, for ambiance, for smell.
Yeah.
But it sets the surgery room on fire.
And then as Chris is making his way through the house and trying to escape, he runs into Missy upstairs, and she runs to try to grab her little spoon and teacup, and I think he strangles her, right?
No, so he smacks the teacup, and then she comes at him with a knife. And because this scene is more brutal, I think I would say more brutal than the rest, just because she stabs him through the hand.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's just like, this ain't gonna stop me. This ain't gonna stop me. And then he stabs her with the knife that's still in his hand.
Right. And then Jeremy comes back and he's not dead, and Chris pretty much just fucking takes him out very quickly because of the brain damage, And then he gets in the car and tries to get away.
While attempting a getaway, he ends up hitting Georgina, and he has this brief moment of remembering his mother's death, so he grabs her and puts her in the car. Dummy.
And also at this point, Rose has a shotgun, and she's also trying to catch him. And one of the funnier lines in this is when she says to the groundskeeper, she's like, "Go get him, Grandpa."
Yeah. So Georgina wakes up after getting hit, and she's like, says something about her family or whatever, and crashes the car. And the car crash kills Georgina slash Marianne. That's Rose's grandma.
The grandma.
But yeah, that kills her.
And this is really fucked up, too, is when Walter gets to him, Chris flashes his phone light in his face again, and he comes to, and it's whoever the real person is inside, and he kills himself.
Walter takes the rifle from the rose.
From the rose.
From
single rose holding a rifle.
The single rose. And then Chris takes the rifle and shoots Rose. And then there's a scene where he starts to strangle her, but he just can't bring himself to do it.
And as he's kind of on top of her, of course you see police lights.
And Rose starts to call out for help because, of course, the police would come help a poor
little white girl.
Yep, in upstate New York. But it turns out to be Rod. And he steps out of the cruiser and basically saves the day.
And they leave Rose to bleed out.
Now, I do want to backpedal a little bit before we get into the behind-the-scenes stuff. Because we ended our last episode with me with us saying I don't like this movie. It's not that I don't like this movie. I love a lot of this movie. It's just I think it takes a few things too far. For me, the whole, like, I love the hypnotism stuff. I love the, why did I almost say Quiet Place?
Sunken Place.
Sunken Place.
It's a different movie.
I love the Sunken Place, but it is the brain swapping was too far for me. Mm-hmm. It's too, like, sci-fi. It's too unbelievable.
Yeah, and for me, I think that it's believable enough, but you're much more questioning than I am.
Yes, and
I've been trying to get you to watch The Leftovers, and you question it so much and don't accept that it's just TV.
because there's a certain level of things that I can accept, and there's stuff where it's like, I know that wouldn't happen. A great example of that is when you call the police, they will come even if you hang up. Mm-hmm. That is always, TV shows always does that, and it's like, nope, they know where your phone is, and they will show up.
Right.
And TV always tries to get away with it. I'm like, but that's not what will happen. Mm-hmm. And for me, one of the things this movie that it just is it's just like reaching too far is the Rod character. So I get it. I love him, and he's supposed to be the comic relief, and I think he's great. It's just a couple things, like a couple of the TSA stuff is too far, because there's the whole scene where the cops laugh in his face.
Right.
My dad was a TSA agent. A TSA agent can't just show up and get a car or find the location of his missing friend.
I always forget your dad is a TSA agent.
Yeah, he was. And you just, like, they're not cops. They're not magic. They have very limited resources. They don't get weapons. They're not cops.
Right.
How did he get a cop car?
It wasn't a cop car, though. It was a TSA car.
Okay, a TSA car doesn't have cop lights.
Okay.
It's not a cop car.
All right. Well, you're the TSA expert, apparently.
No. It's just reaching, and then it's just like, how did he know where Chris was?
I do agree with that, because it's never said. And like I said, like when I watch People's Pets, they don't ever give me the address of where they are.
No, there's just a few elements of the movie where it's like, ugh. But really though, because then, like, I love, there's like the flash thing that snaps him out of it, and it's like, cool, but do you know how many bright lights you accidentally come in contact with every day?
Right.
Every time somebody takes a picture, he's gonna have a seizure and snap out of it. It's like, that would happen every single day. A movie gets too, like when we got our new TV, we were like, holy shit, it's so bright, we have to turn it down.
Yeah.
And it's like, that would cause it. And it's like, you go to the movies, that would cause it, there's just a couple things that, and it's funny, when I bring up that I'm not a huge fan of this movie, people are like, oh, you think it, because they think I'm like knocking it for being a black movie, or like, oh, you just don't like seeing all the white people die, and I'm like, that's my favorite part.
Yeah,
I love seeing them die and Chris winning. That's my that's what I love about this movie. But for me, there's just like a couple writing things.
I get it. I don't disagree, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me.
I wouldn't say it ruins it for me, but people are like 10 out of 10. Favorite movie of all
this
time.
Is one of those ones that people fucking love.
And it's like,
that's fine.
It's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, best movie ever.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in my top 10.
It still deserves all the credit it's gotten.
Yeah, and Jordan Peele deserved an Oscar for it. And it got nominated for a lot of other things. But it's funny because he won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, and I'm just like, it kind of seems like a Twilight Zone episode. And it's because he directed the new Twilight Zone. But
oh, really?
Yeah, he did.
Weird.
Yeah. But like the writing is one of the weaker points for me. So it's just like he had as far as like best original, yes. Mm-hmm. But it's also the screenplay that has the biggest faults for me. So it's just, it's a weird, this movie will always be like a weird place for me.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Daniel Kaluya, who played Chris, I thought this was so interesting. Well, he was still at school, and it didn't specify if this meant high school or college, but while he was still a teen, he was recruited as a contributor, writer, and actor for the critically acclaimed UK drama series Skins.
Is he from the UK?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah.
I
did know that.
I did not know that.
But he was writing full hour-long episodes for the show, making him one of the youngest people ever to write an episode of primetime drama. So he was like 19, 18, 17, along those lines when he was acting and writing for that show. Which I've never seen that one, but it's super fucking popular.
Yeah, I know so many people that have watched it and love it. Daniel was given the lead role on the spot after nailing his audition. Jordan Peele said Kaluya did about 5 takes of a key scene in which his character needs to cry, and each was so perfect that the single tear came down at the exact same time for each take.
That's an amazing actor if you can cry on cue 5 times in a row like that.
Especially with just a single tear coming down perfectly on cue each time. Not
Bizarre.
even, there's like, people at like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise level that can't even cry on cue, especially like single tear. Mm-hmm. That's a feat.
Yeah.
As we said before, Get Out is the directorial debut for Jordan Peele. He felt that horror and comedy genres are similar in that so much of it is pacing, so much of it hinges on reveals, and that comedy gave him something of a training for the film. The Stepford Wives provided inspiration, about which Peele said, "It's a horror movie, but has a satirical premise." As the film deals with racism, Peele has stated that the story is very personal, although he noted that it quickly veers off from anything autobiographical.
And speaking of the Stepford Wives, Peele has mentioned in several interviews how influential both those were on Get Out. Peele mentioned that Rosemary's Baby and The Stepford Wives both entertainingly tackled gender politics, and he wanted to do the same thing but with race politics. And in a Deadline interview, Peele discussed that both films helped audiences identify with the protagonist, no matter their gender. And that's why he found that Get Out was so successful, because he was like the only black guy in the movie, so you're kind of forced to root for him. Just like in The Stepford Wives, there's only one that's not brainwashed. In Rosemary's Baby, she's the only one that is not being listened to, and you can see the gaslighting that's going on.
Peele described conceptualizing the Sunken Place as an impassioned journey, saying, "I always had this concept of the place that you're falling toward when you're going to sleep, and you get that falling sensation and catch yourself. And if you didn't catch yourself, where would you end up? I had this hellish image, and I thought of this idea of, what if you were in a place and you could look through your own eyes as if they were literal windows or a screen, and see what your body was seeing, but feel like a prisoner in your own mind, the chamber of your mind," Peele explained. "The moment I thought of that, it immediately occurred to me the theme of abduction and connection to the prison industrial complex, that this movie was sort of presenting a metaphor for. It was a very emotional discovery. I remember having so much fun writing it, but at the same moment, when I figured out this weird, esoteric, but also an emotionally brutal form of suffering to put the character through, I literally cried writing the scene." And that, I love hearing stuff like that, where a writer...
So, like, emotionally connected to it.
That they literally cry writing it.
And that's one of those things, too, is when you try to, like, put into words how like an emotion feels, like anxiety or depression or helplessness, and you feel like you fucking hit it on the head. Like, that's emotional for sure.
Another thing I love hearing about is how movies come to be. So Jordan Peele is very well known for working with Keegan-Michael Key, because they had a show. That show might still be on for all I know, but the show Key and Peele, that was on Comedy Central. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but...
So, yeah, Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele were on Mad TV together for a very long time, and then they kind of got their own sketch show. They were actually in a Rocket Mortgage.
Oh, yeah. Because the other guy's from Detroit.
I did not know that.
I think.
Are they? I don't know.
Not Peele, but the other one, Key.
Key?
Yeah,
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
pretty
know
sure.
that. But anyways, Peele was introduced to producer Sean McKittrick by comedy partner Keegan-Michael Key in 2013. Jordan and I met for coffee in New Orleans. He said, "Here's one you'll never want to make," and he pitched me the whole story. I'd never seen that movie before. It fascinated me. So I said right at the table, "Okay, I'm going to buy this pitch and pay you to write it." I think he was a little shocked. Peele wrote the first draft of the script in 2 months, which is very exciting. Mm-hmm. Especially, like, most people do not get paid to write the script.
Yeah, right.
You get paid after the fact, or, like, especially if you're the writer-director, you're normally not getting paid to write it right like that.
Mm-hmm. Of course, with this movie so straight on addressing all of these racist ideas, Peele was a little worried about the film's chances, and he's quoted as saying, "What if white people don't want to come to see the movie because they're afraid of being villainized with black people in the crowd? What if black people don't want to see the movie because they don't want to sit next to a white person while a black person is being victimized on screen?" End quote. Definitely valid.
Yeah, but this movie
Mixed bag, for sure.
But it ended up being a huge success. This movie made millions. When Jordan Peele was asked if Universal Pictures wanted him to do a sequel to this film, he stated, "Of course they have. It was the first thing they said. Let's do a sequel." He went on to say, "Honestly, I'm open to it. I love the project, but I won't do a sequel just for some kind of cash grab. If it's right, if it feels good, and I feel like I can beat the original, I'll do it."
Speaking of, sorry.
I was going to say, and 4 years later, he still hasn't done it. So I'm glad he's not just doing it to do it.
Right. And speaking of the success of the film, Jordan Peele became the first African-American writer, producer, and director to earn more than $100 million in a debut film.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is amazing.
Chance the Rapper was so impressed by the movie that he bought all of the movie tickets from certain Chicago movie theaters just so people could go see the film for free. In one of his tweets talking about the film, he says, "Just pull up with an ID and enjoy the movie."
I love that. That's so cool. If I had a lot of money, I would do that sometime for a movie I liked.
Yeah.
After the success of this movie, at UCLA, they actually started a class called Sunken Place, Racism, Survival, and Black Horror Aesthetic, which I would take that class, please and thank you.
Me too.
But in 2017, Peele secretly sat in the last row as class was in session, and the professor asked the question, "What do you think the director was trying to say about the coveting of black bodies?" To which Peele raised his hand, much to the surprise and joy of the class once they recognized him. He got a thunderous applause and a standing ovation as he went to the front of the class, and he ended up teaching the students, and the whole moment was caught on Twitter. So sweet.
Why couldn't my school have that? We had Kanye.
The Jordan Peele class.
We just had Kanye West show up once, and he had like a psychotic episode.
Yeah,
and
fun.
started talking about Elon Musk, and that if we didn't buy Teslas, we were gonna help cause the end of the world.
Sounds right.
Yep.
The opening of the film is partially inspired by the opening of John Carpenter's Halloween, when Jordan Peele described it as the perfect white neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Halloween is like the perfect neighborhood, but this is a perfect white neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Peele has said that the title is a reference to what he often hears black audiences shout while they watch horror movies, which is "Get Out." And obviously in this, Rod and Andre both say it to Chris. I think just because, like, I think of Scary Movie, and there's, in the first one, there's that whole scene where they're screaming, "Get out" at the movie. Like, and that's exactly what it takes me to. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny and so clever. Michael Abels did the theme song for Get Out, and I'm going to say it very incorrectly, but the title is in Swahili, and it's, should I even try to say it?
Try, just.
Sikilza Kwa Waenga. And the whole song is in Swahili except for the word brother, which is said in English. But the translation of the song is "Brother, run, listen to the elders, listen to your truth, run away, save yourself."
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love it.
This movie actually originally had several different endings. Peele didn't quite know which direction to take it. In one of the original endings, Chris is arrested by the police after strangling Rose. Instead of rescuing Chris, Rod meets him in jail and asks him for information about the Armitage family to investigate. But Chris insists that he stop them and everything is fine.
That would have been such a downer. After all of that he just gets arrested.
I wish that was the ending. Because it's way more real.
I get it, but that would have been the worst.
In real life, Chris doesn't get away.
Yeah.
No way.
I know. It's not real life, though.
But it's a movie that's talking about real life.
Let's keep going.
Okay. Peele intended this ending to reflect the realities of racism. By the time production had begun, however, several high-profile police shootings of black people had made discussion. In Peele's words, more woke. After gauging reception at test screenings, he decided the film needed a happy ending, but felt a moment when the audience believes Chris is about to be arrested would preserve the intended reaction. Which makes sense.
Because you still get the same gut feeling
You
when
still
the
think
cops show up.
You still think he's
oh
about to
my
get
God.
taken.
Yeah.
You can watch this and a few other endings on the Blu-ray release. In one ending, Rod breaks into the estate, finds Chris, and calls his name, but Chris responds, "I assure you, I don't know who you're talking about."
That would have been so spooky.
Yeah. I think, do we need to buy this movie?
I am curious.
I kind of want to watch him.
One of the stranger things about the creation of this movie is that it was partially inspired by an Eddie Murphy stand-up special where he talks about like black people versus white people in a haunted house. But he was so influential in the creation of the script that Jordan Peele originally chose him to play Chris. So this could have been Eddie Murphy on screen
That's
as
a good
Chris.
call. That's a good call to not
But
make it
they
Eddie Murphy.
ultimately decided that he was too old for the character.
That's why?
That's what it says. Decided he's too old.
I mean, I could think... He's so
you
goofy. You can't
goofy.
have the guy who voiced Donkey
Yeah.
play Chris.
Yeah, it's just this. I get like that. You were like, yeah, he gets it. He gets this idea. This is what we're going for. But that doesn't make him the face.
No, it's a very real thing. Like, he's been in Haunted Mansion. He was Donkey. It's a very real thing where it's like, it goes back. It's for anybody, you know. Nobody will ever see Arnold like he's the Terminator.
Yeah.
Like, people just have a vision of you based on your previous works. But an actor like Daniel, like, he was newer, so he didn't have as many credits to his name. And the credits to his name, like, when I saw him in this, I had only known him from Black Mirror when he was in, like, another creepy story.
Right.
There are 9 on-screen deaths in this movie, if you include the deer.
Speaking of the deer, did you read that Jordan Peele did the dying deer noises?
Yes, I
That's
did.
so random.
I want to see a video clip of him just in a sound booth just making deer screams.
It's very weird. First, we have Andre Hayworth, whose brain was swapped with Logan.
The deer accidentally ran over by Rose and Chris.
Jim Hudson, the blind photographer guy who will be dead because of the infection to his cranium because the surgery didn't happen. Remember, he threw the top of his head.
But also being burned to death because the room was on fire.
But even if he survives the burning, he's missing his skull that got thrown in the garbage can, yeah.
Dean Armitage definitely bled to death when Chris stabbed him with the antlers.
And then Missy, the mom, who was stabbed in either the eye or the temple with that knife.
Brother Jeremy, who's first hit with the billiard ball, and then Chris stomps on his skull.
Georgina, whose head is crushed up against the dashboard in the car accident.
And Walter, who shoots himself with the hunting rifle after Chris takes the picture, breaking the hypnosis.
And then finally Rose, who's shot in the stomach, strangled, and then left to bleed out.
That would take so long.
Yeah.
That would be agony.
She deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. For our next episode, we know that Black History Month is coming to a close before our next episode comes out. But who cares? we can do whatever we want. So we're going to cover the 1995 movie Tales from the Hood.
Which I've never seen, and I'm very excited to watch this.
It's been a little bit since I've seen it, but I love it. A nice, fun, it's everything. It's got crime, it's got drama, it's horror.
Thing about a weird puppet.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to
It's got comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And it's an anthology, which I also like a lot.
And we'll obviously be talking about more than just the actors. We'll be talking about directors. We'll probably talk a little bit about Spike Lee, too. It'll be a good episode.
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.
How you find me?
I'm T.S. motherfucking A. We handle shit. That's what we do. Consider this situation fucking handle.